I'd now like to pass to John Defterios for an interview with His Excellency Suhail Al Mazrouei, Minister of Energy and Infrastructure in the United Arab Emirates. They will frame the UAE's approach to a dynamic set of energy challenges and opportunities in the coming year. John and Minister Mazrouei have been a part of this forum from its beginning. John, Minister Suhail, a warm welcome to both of you, my friends.
Great. Fred, it's good to see you, albeit virtually, but glad to see you're on watch in Washington for us and for the historic inauguration that's going to be taking place in less than 24 hours. So great to see you. All one can say at this stage is what a year, right? Because of the shock of COVID-19, we're seeing the variants now spreading to different parts of the world. It's keeping the world on edge, rightfully so, but also forcing energy producers to be extremely nimble. I remember in March of 2020, I was at the OPEC Plus meeting in Vienna. There was a debate about whether to cut 600,000 to 1.5 million barrels a day. What would be enough? And just about 2 months later, it was a record cut of nearly 10 million barrels a day. Now that's been tapered, but again, because of the variance we're seeing in demand and the uncertainty going forward, we saw Saudi Arabia start 2021 with a surprise cut again, and we've seen a rally going into it. That kind of sets the framework of our discussion, at least at the front end. A few hours ago, I sat down with Suhail Al Mazrouei virtually. He's in Abu Dhabi. I'm in Dubai this week. And we started about whether this market's finding balance or not, or is the rally overblown? Let's start there. Minister, we're at a stage right now where oil's around $55 a barrel for North Sea Brent. The market is signaling that the inventories will rebalance faster than anticipated, but is it premature knowing that in many countries around the world they're dealing with the third wave and more variants? Do you see this market coming into balance, and if so, by when?
Well, John, it's a very delicate matter, and we need to remember that we are experiencing this for the first time. What happened in 2020 was extraordinary. And balancing it's also interesting. I think in our forecast as OPEC Plus group, we've been managing the balance very well so far. We are taking meetings on a monthly basis to ensure that we are always there to take any new things that are happening, whether the pace of the vaccine or the development of the virus, and relaying that to the demand and the effect of it. So far, I think this year, the way we see it, is a year of recovery. Whether it's going to be the end of the year where we were supposed to reach the balance, or the beginning of 2022, the forecast is, or the expectation is to be the beginning of 2022. But I'm hoping that the pace of the vaccine will positively surprise us, and hopefully we can catch up earlier than that date.
In fact, the latest OPEC monthly monitoring report was suggesting by the end of this year, you could see demand rising to just about 96 million barrels a day, from the destruction down to 90 million barrels a day last year due to COVID-19. You're more optimistic. Why is that?
Well, it's the pace, John, of the vaccine. You remember before the launching of the campaigns of vaccinating the people, some people were skeptical on the pace. I think we are catching up at a good pace, looking at it in January. So I'm hopeful that with the helps of the various governments and the approvals, that the vaccination would be faster. Plus, we are in the winter, and hopefully during the summer, we will see also some help in the seasonality effect. We're seeing a very good demand in China and the major economies like China and India, and we're seeing that people are starting to, in certain parts of the world, starting to go back to normal. That gives me some hope, John.
100 million barrels a day. Do we reach it again and surpass it? That's a huge question mark, whether peak demand has already been reached due to COVID-19. What would you say we're going to be seeing by 2040?
I think there is still room to grow beyond the 100 million. If you look at different expectations in 2040, it ranges from 109 to 105. But again, we will see. It depends on the alternatives, how convenient they are in getting to the market. We're talking about a growth in the population. We're talking about as well many people who cannot afford electricity or a car may do that in the next coming 20 years or so. All of those numbers are not knowns, and they will drive demand. In my view, I think it's 2040 at least will be a year of growth. Until we reach there, I am sure the technology will develop. That doesn't mean that the other forms of energy will stay as a percentage as they are. We are all spending efforts and putting strategies to ensure that the contribution from renewable energy is coming, and we believe in the Emirates it will surpass the fossil fuel contribution. But that's for us, and other countries will have different options, I'm sure, and they will evolve. But for us in the Emirates, we're looking at a 50% or a little bit less than 50% by 2050, and I think the demand on oil will be solid till we reach a 109 in our expectations as OPEC.
You're almost serving as a contrarian as the UAE, taking capacity from over 3 million barrels a day now, about 3.5, going to 5 million barrels a day. What does that tell us? That the low-cost Gulf producers, the efficient ones, will build market share over time? This is the new reality and the strategy of Abu Dhabi?
Well, John, other than market share, what we are looking for is efficiency in production. And we are trying to be an example of how an international or an IOC or an NOC produce. We are investing in reducing the carbon footprint in our oil field operations, and we believe we will be producing some of the cleanest barrels in the future. That with our partners is the aim. Second, the demand, as we just mentioned, there is an expectation that the demand will grow, but the contribution from different countries will differ, as some of the countries will be facing drainage of certain resources, and they will tap into more expensive barrels. We are targeting to be the lowest cost producer and the cleanest cost producer as well, the cleanest barrel producer as well. So those combinations what gives us confidence that in the future there will be demand on our barrels, and we want to be ready if a surprise or a demand pickup, then we have that resources. We all know that trillions of investments have not happened in the past 4 to 5 years, and I know that it will catch up with us if we are not investing.
Well, let's cover this idea of OPEC Plus. With this capacity expansion, will the UAE remain within this structure going forward? Many are raising the question that because you want to grow your market share and you're growing capacity, that you'll outgrow OPEC Plus and its usefulness.
No, I think at the end of the day, it depends on how you see the world. We're talking about 2030, and until that time, we believe that there will be a pickup on demand. We are concentrating our production, as I said, John, on becoming more efficient and We have learned a lot of COVID and the lower price environment that hit us before to ensure that we are the lowest cost producer in the world. And we believe that for those who are investing in the technology and investing to produce a relatively cleaner barrels, they will have that demand on their barrels in the future. I'm not worried about competition, and I don't think there is a contradictions between having a capacity and staying part of the group.
Okay, very good. It's interesting. What do you tell governments right now who are working on COP26 in Glasgow at the end of 2021 that you have this mix of both hydrocarbons and renewables within the country, and you're investing even more and have nuclear capacity there that you're utilizing, but at the same time are expanding production capacity? Is the answer that we're going to be a low carbon producer or the lowest carbon producer in your view?
Well, it's a balance, John. We have a responsibility as one of the major suppliers to the other economies, and our responsibility puts in our shoulder that the fact that we have to keep investing while others are not investing in this commodity to ensure that it's available for the economies, it's available for jobs to be created. And we are continuing doing that even at the difficult years like the year that we have seen in 2020. We keep investing because of that responsibility. The second thing, at the same time, we realize that the demand for energy will be increasing in the future. We are working on different frontiers. One is the blue hydrogen and the green hydrogen, as we are building a capacity in the renewable energy. So hydrogen is one of those resources that we think will play a key role in our future and in the world future. The transition typically takes longer than expected. Many people 30 years ago predicted that by 2020 or 2021 we will be less than 50% relying on fossil fuel. Guess what? We're still at around an 80% or so. So there is lots of things. There are lots of things to be done. I think we need to work on reducing the coal-fired power stations, replace them with gas if possible, and complement that with renewable, with nuclear. So every country, depending on what's available to it as resources, will have to drive that their strategy. But all in all, John, we are all working toward reducing the carbon footprint. We are aiming for a reduction of 70% by the year 2050. And that's a commitment that we are putting to the world.
It was a punishing year, 2020, for U.S. shale, and they lost nearly 3 million barrels a day in the United States as a result of this shakeout. In this recovery we see right now, would it be a mistake for the U.S. producers to press on the throttle here and try to capture back market share because it's a fragile recovery and we have the variants that we talked about?
Well, first of all, again, it depends on if you are on the investor side or on the volume side. And I think more emphasis are put now in the US on the investors' expectation. As you know, UAE, we are a major investor in the world, and we understand that. There are expectations from the shareholder, from the investors in terms of returns. And I think looking at what the shale have been through, I'm not sure that growth at any cost will be the option. I think there is wisdom now on the right pace of growth. We all appreciate what the US have done during the year 2020 of the producers from all over the US have done in reducing their supply to cater for the reason which was the shortage of the demand. So I'm sure now wisdom, it's not just going to be growth at any cost. I think it's going to be a wise growth driven by the investors' expectation.
Yes. Do you think expectations now in the energy market are a little bit ahead of themselves here? We've had quite a healthy recovery. Should we base it on real fundamentals and a real recovery in the second half of 2021? And the message here, let's be prudent and not exuberant?
I think we have to be prudent. Many people have burned their fingers several times, so they have learned the lesson. I think all of us as producers now, we need to work together to get the world to the status where it was before. What happened in 22 was unimaginable. The level of reduction in demand, the level of inventories build-up that was reached, all of that need to go back to balance, and that would take efforts from everyone. So we are hoping that everyone will be cooperative. We are taking a burden as OPEC Plus countries, and I am sure that the others will not overdo it. Looking at the investors, as I mentioned earlier, expectations.
It's interesting if you take a look, because of ESG, environmental social governance, a lot of the IOCs are not expanding their production. Doesn't this give the state operators like ADNOC here in the UAE and what we see with Saudi Aramco a lot more flexibility to pick up market share during this historic shift?
I think it will be interesting. You rightly mentioned. The IOCs now, driven by their national interest, are looking to diversify within themselves, not to focus only on hydrocarbon, and also to go to hydrogen, to go to renewable energy, as well as an energy investors rather than oil and gas investors, and that will definitely change the focus on the investments. And those who are investing, as I mentioned earlier, John, are going to be a beneficiary of that market share because they have already invested on those barrels. And it's going to be an interesting landscape to watch. Looking at the US as well with the new administration and hopefully going back to Paris Agreement, what does that going to do to the United States production, and any restrictions going to be imposed on the producers? All of that is going to be wait and see during the year 2021 and 2022.
It's great to have you, Minister Suhail Al Mazrouei, the Minister of Energy and Infrastructure in the UAE.
Pleasure. Thank you, John.